Hi everyone and welcome to the channel, and today we're going to answer a Patreon's question regarding how we would create this object. So this is part of an array. So it's a 3D printed material. So I'll place a link into the description of where this is from. This has been created by someone else. If we look at it, it's an STL file that's come down, and that's opening up the 8x8 array. And they connect together to make a 3D printed material like this, and it's a flexible material that we can use for certain applications, certain 3D printed applications. The question is, how do we create this? Because we can see these are all linked together. I've used both the part design and the cursor workbench to recreate this. I'll be showing you a suggested workflow where I take this object, slice it across different cross sections to figure out the shape, and then I'll recreate those cross sections and create a part design object, then followed by these arms using the cursor workbench. Once those arms are created, we'll use a polar pattern back in the part design to finish our object, along with some fillets around the sides just to neaten it up. And this is the finished result. And this will connect together in the same way as this object here. So I hope you're enjoying these videos, and let's have a look how we would reverse engineer this object. If you like what you see and you want to donate to the channel, then you can do so via PayPal at paypal.com/paypalme/Darren B. Eastone, or at Ko-Fi or Coffee via ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can get early access and additional content, and that's at patreon.com/mangojellysolutions. Links can be found in the channel header, on the About page, or in the descriptions of these videos. So we start a new document in FreeCAD, and we're going to import the files. So file import. Now these come in as STL files. Unfortunately, there's no step file there. So go into the files, and you can see we have the fabric 4x4, 8x8, 12x16, and this one here, which is the actual connector. If I load the surface, we can see how these are joined together. So you can see we've got a hexagon shape, and they join via these arms. Now, one thing I'm going to do is come up to the file and preferences. I'm just going to change the selection settings in the display. So if we look at the colors, I've got this enable pre-selection highlighting, and this is what you'll see in that yellow color that highlights. I'm going to just turn that off because we're doing with an STL file. It can be a bit annoying when the whole lot flashes. So we can see how these are connected together. So you can see the hexagon shape and the connections between these via these arms. And one of these is what we're looking to duplicate and create, say, a section of this in some kind of assembly workbench. Let's import the single one. So this NASA Fabric Mark III Smooth, and open that. And let's delete the 4x4. So we can see this now. So we're looking for a workflow that will work with this. I'm going to go down the part design workflow for the lofting, and the problem is these ones, because they're going to be quite awkward to do. Now looking at this, we have got this line that follows this loft, and on that line is the start of this arm. If we come down and measure up, looking here, well, when I say measure up, we line up, we can see that this line here more or less intersects the center of this arm. So this helps us with building this, because we're going to have to create a profile for these arms, and I can place a profile along an edge here, and if we're careful enough, we can get an edge that runs up here to connect up this profile. Let's look at tackling this first to figure out the measurements, because we're going to need to measure across here and get an idea of the cross sections and then we'll use those cross sections in the part design. So first of all, I'm going to come over to the part workbench. And I'm going to show you the tool we're going to use. So if we look along here, we've got this tool here, which is the cross section tools. This throws a cross section across whatever's been selected. At the moment, this isn't a shape, this is an STL file. If it was a step file, it would be a lot more easier, but we only got STL files with this one. If we come over to the mesh design, we've also got a cross section. So we can convert this to a shape and use the cross sections in the part workbench, or we could use these cross sections here. Let's click on these cross sections and see what we get. So we have this cross section going across here, and I can position this using the cross section panel here with the guiding plane along the XY. So looking from the top, this is the XY plane. And we'll position this using the down arrow to where we want. So I'm going to cross section through this part here. So this is this seam that runs along here. If I hit OK, what happens? We get this cross section going across here. Click on the STL, press the spacebar, you can see we've got those there. So we have a mesh, we have our first cross section. Let's add another one. So that's take another seam. So I'm going to click on the front, make sure the mesh is selected, and we'll use the cross sections again. From meshes, and it's available from cutting and cross section. So we have our cross section here. Let's move this down into position. So just click on the front and decide where that's going to go. So that's going to create a cross section across here. So this will give us the size of the base. Okay, that. And let's create another one. Bring this right down. Let's try 0.2, perhaps 0.1. There we go. So that one there. So we've got another cross section. And I'm just trying to find the seams really. And there's a seam here. As you can see, we can just about see that. So let's make one there. Using the toolbar or the drop down menu. Using our views to position it. So front, and let's go 6. Well, it's going to be about 5.8, around about there. Okay, that. I think we need one more. Bring that down to 7 and okay. So we've got a number of cross sections going through there. Matter of fact, let's delete that last one. The 7 wasn't enough. So let's go for around about 6.8. Should see us. That's okay. That's okay. That. So there we have it. So we've got all the cross sections in there. Now this is a good chance to look over and see if we've missed any. Now looking at the base, we can see we've got tapering in here. This is tapered down. So I'm going to place a cross section in here as well. Let's do the cross section, and this is going to be a bit of a guesstimate of whereabouts this is going to sit. And if we can't get this right, because we can't really see that actually in there, that's okay that. And well, you can see that we've just got another ring around this outside here. So for that, I might use either the section view using the clipping plane, or we actually create a plane on here. So we come over to the part workbench and create a plane. So come up to the part, create primitives, plane. Let's set this plane something like 20 by 20. and hit enter. This is the point of origin. So the point of origin is over here. So if we go view, well, we have to hit close first. View, toggle axis cross. We can see our point of origin is here. So I should have fixed this before I actually even started with any of this, but that's fine. That's just move this plane. Right click, transform, and move this over. Now we can see the point of origin is here. This means that the point of origin of this object is not in the right place. So that causes a bit of a problem when it comes to moving this about if we're moving it freehand like this. So what I'm doing is just bringing the plane up and trying to see it just appear at the bottom there. So we can see that is in there. I'm going to come up a little bit. You can see it just in the bottom there and hit OK. That gives me something to aim for when I do the next cross section. So let's come in, click on the object over in the mesh workbench, there it is, and do a cross section. And we'll bring this down, and let's go to 3. It's going to be 0.2. That's a good guess. So we've got 0.2 there, and hit OK. So we look inside now, we see the black line running around there, and we can get rid of this plane. So click on it and hit delete, and we can see we're all set with all our cross sections. Now I'm going to create a part in here so I can move this, or actually create a group for all of these. So come in, create a part, and we'll take all of these and just place them in here. Just drop them in there. The reason why I've done this is just to keep them apart from everything, and also I can click on the actual part, right click, and transform this all as one. So our axis cross is in the center here. I'm just going to move this into the center. I might even just move this with the X, Y, and Z coordinate systems on the actual part, the placement, and the position there. Let's change that. So we can come in and decide, click on top, we've got something to aim for. So let's do the Y. Let's take 40 off of here. And it doesn't need to be exact, it's just to place it in the center, because everything that I'm going to sketch on here is going to be in the center. And let's go, say, 29.5. There we go, something like that. So that's good. So we're all set. We've got our part, and I'm just going to hide the original object, so this STL file, and we can see we've got the outline of where we need to sketch. So we've got something to aim for. So we've just prepared the cross sections in the mesh workbench. We could have done that in the part workbench, as what we said before, but I decided to use the mesh cross sections. And now we can create a number of sketches in there and scale them to the right scale without going through and trying to measure all these. So that's stage 1. Let's go on to stage 2. So for stage 2, we're going to go over to the part design. I'm going to use the part design workflow, and I'm going to come back to the model. We're going to create a new body, and we're going to make sure that the body doesn't go into the part. Now the reason why it went into the part container is because it's active. So click on that body, hit delete, click on the part container, right click, toggle active part. So now it's not active. Now create a body, and that's outside that part. So now we're all set to go. We're going to create a sketch, and this is going to be on the XY plane. So this is going to be the first sketch, and hit OK. It's created the sketch along that plane, and what we should see if we use the section view, which I've got here, also available in sketch view section, well, we can't see cross section that we need. If we can't see it, we need to lower the cross section, this one here, on the Z axis, and just move it down a bit. So I'm going to press the down arrow so I can just see it. So minus 0.2 or 0.1, something like that. So when I double click on that sketch, I should be able to see that now. There we go. Just moved it down a bit because the cross section actually cross-sected below the actual object. Now I've got this object here, I can use the regular polygon and constrain to the center and come out and match this. I'm not going to pull in the geometry. I'm just matching this because it's very rough geometry. Now it's matched. Let's take the outer circle of that and create a dimension against that of a diameter. And this is going to be 14 millimeters and hit OK. This is moving at the moment. I've got my auto constraints on, so that auto constraint is to the center there. I'm going to take this point and this vertical line and make it point on object constraint, so it's all constrained down. That's our first sketch. As said, we're going to be using a lofting workflow, so we're going to be lofting across here. Now the thing is that this part here, the next part in the chain, we don't actually need to loft to that. We could just pad to it and then loft to this one. So let's take that sketch. This saves us a bit of time, and pad that by about 2 millimeters. Well, it's going to be a bit less than that, 1 mil. Looks like it's 0.5. There we go. So that's padded to there, and OK. Now we're going to do our next sketch. Make sure nothing's selected. New sketch along the XY plane. OK that. And we're aiming to do this one here. So what we're going to do is come over to the model, come down to the new sketch, this one, and we're going to move that sketch. But first, let's do a section view. So I've got my icon somewhere. Well, it's disappeared. Let's go up to sketch view section, and we're just going to lay down some geometry so we know it's a regular polygon, and we're going to constrain to the center and just bring this out to, well, let's say here. Not going to attach it to anything, we're just going to place it on there. This means that when I move this, when I come to task and hit close, I can move that sketch that I've just created, this one here, roll over it, we can see, well, it's on the bottom, but if we roll over it, we can see it there. And come down to the attachment, not the placement. The attachment's first because it's been attached to the XY plane. To the position, and look at the Z. And we'll move this up. Just press the up arrow, and we're going to move it into place. And I think this is going to be something like 1.5. There we go. That's in position now, 1.5. Now I can double click on that sketch and decide where this is going to go. So if we go view and section view, so that's on sketch view section, we can bring this back and decide where it's going to go. So I can see that's about there. And not that one. Let's take all of these, press the spacebar. So I can just see that one now. And we'll marry this up. Now look at the top. It's quite hard to see where that is. So let's click on the pad and press the spacebar. There we go. So I can come in and just decide where this is going to go. We need this point on this line, point on object constraint. And let's put some dimensions in here. Let's get this set. Doesn't have to be as that. You can see we've got some curvature going across these. And we're going to go to about there. That sets the outer circle, which is construction geometry, and it's 7.15, so I'm going to go for 7 on that one. Now if I wanted to, I could put arcs in here to follow this shape. I'm just going to go for that regular polygon in there. So let's bring back the pad, click on that pad, press the space bar so we can see that in there. The reason why I'm doing that is just to show how that's sitting on there. So we've got the pad there and we've got this. Our next item in the train, we've done this one, we've done this one, our next one, let's show all these so we can see them. And we can see that we've got this one here, which is the circle. So we're going from the hexagon to the hexagon to the circle. Let's hide these ones here, so I can click on those. Just press the space bar, hide that one and hide the top one. Let's hide the pad. So let's create a new sketch, make sure nothing's selected, again along the XY plane. This one here. Come over to the model, just hide that pad. Gonna lay down some geometry and then move it. So let's place a circle in here, come out and connect up. Let's look at the top view to see what that looks like. That's fine. Take the circle and create a dimension on here. Diameter of 7.5. We've got this inner one. Now, looking at this, was this a seam or was this just a cross section just to get this inner part in here? I believe it was just for the inner part. If we look, we can see, well, we're just going straight up to this one from here. So this was for the inner part. Let's just hide those, clicking on them and pressing the spacebar. Let's alter that sketch. We've still got sketch open. Let's double click on the diameter, no need to get rid of that, and click on reference and hit OK. So now this is reference geometry. This means when I close this down, so we're shrinking it right down, and we can go right down and decide basically on the diameter of this. Right, so I know it's 3. I can come back in, set diameter to 3, reference automatically goes off, hit OK. That's constrained now. Let's hit close and position that sketch using the Z axis on the attachment, on the position, and we'll come up and position that. And that looks like 3.2. So we've got that position, so that's the inner part. We can name these up if needs be. Let's hide this one and bring back the other. So we've got this one here. Got any more? We've got the top one, so the next one is this one. And we want this circle. And again, I'm looking, and this circle is the inner part. And actually we want the outer circle as well, so we want 2 circles from this one. Make sure nothing's selected. The body is still active. New sketch, XY plane, OK. Let's draw our first circle. So our first circle is going to come in, constrain to the center. We've got the auto constraints on, and come out for the first circle. This is the inner circle. We'll constrain this down, clicking on it, and setting the diameter. And this one's going to be 5mm. Close that. And we'll do the other one as well. The reason why we're doing them separately, these sketches, is because we're going to have to either loft up and then loft down, or we'll just create this circle as a pocket and use the tapered pocket in there. I haven't decided which yet. We're just going to keep on going as is. So we created that sketch. Let's create a new sketch. XY plane, OK that. And again, using the circle, constrained to the center, coming out, and we're looking to touch this circle around here, not worrying about these arms that are radiating out. So moving forward, I've created all the sketches in here, all the individual sketches for those parts. So if we bring back the shape, we can see from the cross sections, now we've got this one down here. We've got this, which is part of that pad. We have this one, which is the top section, and we can see that's built up of 2 sketches. So this one, there's 2. There's one here, sketch 4, and this inner part. So we've got that one there. And then we've got the outer parts. Let's have a look. And coming up, I can see I've accidentally clicked on part. So let's get rid of all these. And we've got that part. We've got the top section there, which is also 2. This one and this one. And we've got the other section as well. Just that inner part. We don't need this outer part. This was just to show where that bottom part stops. So what we're going to do is loft through these and then do an additive loft followed by a subtractive loft to create the overall shape. So the first thing is we're going to loft from this face to here, this section and this section. So click the top face of the pad, because we can loft from faces. Part design, it's an additive feature and it's an additive loft. You can see object pad face has been added. Add section. Next section. Notice the lines. Now this is going to come in handy. We get a line from this point to this point for all of these. When we start going to our next part after add section, click on this one, these start curving up, but I'm going to make them ruled. See the lines, how they connect up? We're going to get an additional one because we're lofting to a circle. So if I look around, I can see we're probably going to get an additional one at this point, because we got a vertex on the end of that circle. Let's add section again. We don't want to add the inner ones, we just want to add the outer ones. So this one here. So we've lofted all the way up. Let's hit OK. And now we've got these lines. So you can see a line joins up from this point because of these edges, and it follows through the circle. We get an additional line here. We can see the point of this circle, this vertex. Because this is one edge, it will create a line where that sits. So let's create a line down there. These lines are important because we're going to attach geometry for those for the arms. We now got to do our subtractive loft. So this additive loft is the last action. We're going to do a subtractive loft now. So let's click our profile, this one here, and this can be a bit tricky. So let's come up to part design, create a subtractive feature and subtractive loft. So we need to add the next section, but we can't get to the next section. But what we can do is add section, come into the model, and then add it from here. So if we highlight the sections by hovering over this sketch 003, you can see it highlighting there. So we click that, that's gone red. Now we need the next section. You notice the sketch has disappeared. This is where naming comes in handy. We'll hover over the next section, click that. Well, actually, we need to add section again. That's the reason why that didn't move. So hover over that, click it. Now it's moved into the subtractive loft. And we've got 3 sections in there. And if we hover over that subtractive loft, we can see that's taken. Come over to tasks. We got the sections in here. OK. And that's removed the inside of that loft there. And we've got the body that we need. We just need the arms now. Now there are a number of ways of doing the arms. The way I'm going to do these is use something called Curves Workbench. That's available from Tools and Add-on Manager, and we'll find the Curves Workbench in there, and we'll create a freehand B-spline from here, radiating around to this point, and create a profile and attach it to that. We need some adjustments for that freehand B-spline because we need to make sure that the profiles actually sit inside this object, and the Curves Workbench gives us the tools to do that. Now, before I go on to the Curves Workbench, there's one thing I'm going to do. Now, this may look a bit odd. I'm going to click that body and create a clone. On the part design, create clone, or this icon here. This has created a clone of the body. We're going to right click and transform that. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because this is an object that we're going to see that's going to link together. So I'm going to put it by the side. Whatever we do with our original, which I'm going to actually color the clone so we don't get confused. What we do with that original will be applied to the clone. If we create a clone by the side of it and start creating the arms, we will see the arms appear on the clone. When we radiate out the arms in a polar pattern, we should see them link up. So we should see the arms link together and connect these up. And this gives us an idea of how this is going to sit in our project. So we have the body and we have the clone. Let's come over to the Curves Workbench. And we're going to create the path that we need for the arms that come out this way. For reference, let's come back to our original shape, and looking at this, we can see that if we look, our arm comes from here. So if we look at this line here, it comes out and comes around and connects to the top. So we're looking for somewhere to connect this to. Now we can take either or. I'm going to come around and say use this one here, or actually let's come around this side so we're out the way of everything. I don't want this edge here to confuse matters. So I'm going to go from here to here, so then curve up this way. Now let's have a look to see where that sits. We can see it almost connects to the top. So let's take this edge here and control click this edge, and I'm going to use the freehand B-spline. So we hover over the freehand B-spline, which is here. We can see we've got a number of keys to use to edit that freehand B-spline. So let's click the freehand B-spline. At the moment, if we look down, we see the freehand B-spline is in edit mode. And if we look, we can see it's been added there. It's added to that edge and the point of where we clicked it. So let's get ourselves positioned. And I'm just going to go from the side. So side on here. And let's make sure we can see it all. I'll do from the right side. And I'm going to click the freehand B-spline and hit I. I inserts a point, like so. Let's look at this from the top and see what's happened. So we've got a point here. Because I've taken it from the top, I can click and drag this along this plane. And when we look, we can see what's happened. It's come out that far. Let's come up and click on our original STL file and have a look to see what we've got. So we can see this comes out further. Let's click on the top and just bring this out a bit further, like so. At the moment, because I haven't dropped it, because this is in the way, if I click, then it won't drop. I have to drop it into some clear space. So let's drop it there. Click on our STL file and press the space bar, and we'll just alter this. Let's bring this in a bit. And we're looking for a shape, something like that. Now we can do some finer adjustments. For instance, let's take this point and pull it up to about the middle. And I'm using my viewpoint, so I'm using the right, the front, to give us better control over where this is going to be placed. So let's place that there. That'll do for the time being. Let's come down to the freehand B-spline, which is in edit mode, and double click it. That B-spline has taken. So this is the path we're going to follow with our profile. But we may get into some problems, because if we follow this path, then we're following it down, and I need to intersect this shape. So I may need a number of profiles to actually shape this. Let's start by creating our first profile over in the Sketcher workbench. Make sure that the body, at the moment we can see it's not an active body, it's not bold. We right click, toggle active body. This means any sketches will be created inside this body, which we need. The freehand B-spline sits outside the body. That is correct. We need to pull that in at some point. I'm going to create a new sketch along the XY plane and hit OK. It's going to place me here. Let's do a section view, sketch, view section. And well, it's going to place me on top of here, but this is fine. This is not actually going on this face. So if I look at the model, and we've got the subtractive loft here, let's press the space bar. So that subtractive loft is hidden. And we're going to add a sketch, just a plain circle in here. And we're going to add a constraint. Let's constrain the diameter of say 1.5 mil, just for the time being. So this is our profile. That's come up and close that sketch. We can see that we've got this B-spline here. That's bring back our last action, the subtractive loft, and press the spacebar. So this sits at this position here. We need to move this. So I want to place it on this freehand B-spline. We're going to be using this sketch for the profile and come in and look at the data tab and use the attachment mode. I'm going to attach it to this, but we're going to have a bit of a problem, because this edge, I want to use that in a sweep. We can't use that for the sweep at the moment, but I should still be able to use it. So I've clicked it on the reference, so it's saying selecting. We should still be able to use it as a way of attaching this circle to this. So I've just selected the first button. I selected this B-spline, this freehand B-spline, and I've created it normal to edge. So the normal of the sketch is following that edge. This means when I sweep this across this freehand B-spline, it's going to follow along here. Now we can't sweep this at this time. If I take this profile, part design, create an additive feature, additive pipe, also known as additive sweep. So path to sweep along. I want to sweep along this freehand B-spline. If I click object and try to click it, it's going to fail because this is outside the body. If I hit OK, you can see the reference. It's asking to make an independent copy or make a dependent copy, create cross-reference, etc. I don't want to do that. What I'm going to do is pull this inside the active body. So we make sure the body is active. It's bold, so it's active. If not, right click, toggle active body. And I'm going to select the freehand B-spline and use the shape binder. This one here. Create a subshape binder. Or part design, create a subshape binder. What happens is the subshape binder is created that binds this B-spline to the body. So it sits inside here. The binder sits inside. You can see it highlighted in green. If I click on the freehand B-spline and press the space bar to hide it, we get this yellow line or orange line that goes around here. And that is bound to the freehand B-spline. Not only that, we can now use that in our additive pipe. So click on additive pipe. We need the object. At the moment, well, we accidentally selected that binder. So let's select the profile, additive pipe, profile, sketch 7, add edge or add the object, which is this one, which is the binder. And we can see that's been swept across that line there. If I hit OK, we can see a bit of a problem with it in that it doesn't actually go into the object. So we need to make some amendments. How do we embed this into the object? Well, that's where the curves workbench comes into its own as well. Side note, look at the clone, and we can see this has been added to the clone. So we're starting to get an idea of how this is going to work. And I can see how far away it is from this part of this body, making sure it's not interfering with that body. So how do we fix this? Let's just delete that additive pipe and click on the binder and press the space bar. We can see that binder there. We've got to somehow embed this B-spline into this object to allow for the pipe to run across here. Click on the binder and let's delete that and come down to freehand B-spline and press the space bar so we can see it. Let's use another tool over in the curves workbench and we're going to extend this curve. So this curve here, let's extend that. On the toolbar we see this icon here, curve extend or curves, and come down to curve extend. The curve has been extended through the object and we've got control of how far this goes through this object. So we look at the extend curve. In here is the freehand B-spline, which we can edit and change the curvature of this. Look down at the data tab for the extend curve and we can see the length start and length end. Let's bring this out and we can change this. So I'm going to place a 1 in here and we see this is pulled back and now it's embedded in here. Got a bit of a problem here. You can see it's been connected up, but this is just a refresh issue. So let's change the length at the end to 1 as well. There we go. Make sure it doesn't come out the bottom. We may have to add more profiles to this just to get this right. So I'm happy with that, but there's one more thing we have to do is look at the output. We've got single edge. Let's change this to wire and click off. This creates a wire, so if I click on it, we've got the extend curve now. And let's click on the pipe and press the space bar. If I hover over this now, we can see, well, if I click it, we can see we've got a number of edges. The reason why I can't hover over it, if we come to the edit preferences, display and colors, we still got the enable pre-selection highlighting off. Let's turn that back on. That's better, so I can see that now. Remember to turn that back on. Let's come back to the Additive Loft, press the spacebar. So we've got this with an extended edge. Back over to part design. Make sure that body is still active. It's in bold, so it's active. Click on the extended curve and create the subshape binder. Now we can come in after we've hidden the extended curve by pressing the spacebar after selecting it. Now we can come in and find the sketch, which is also hidden. This sketch here, which is the profile, press the spacebar. And this will embed into here. So let's take the sketch, additive pipe, use the object and select this shape binder. So we have a look, we can see, well, it hasn't gone all the way through. Let's OK that and see what's happened. So click on the additive pipe, come into it. We got the sketch and we've got the binder. So this binder here. Let's look at the extend curve. It hasn't bound to that extend curve. Looks like it's bound to just the edges. Bring back the additive pipe and just delete it. And let's have a look to see what's happened. Let's delete the binder and hide the Additive Loft. Let's click this again. And the reason why is because when we bound, we clicked on this and used the binder. So we only bound this edge. So that's click the extend curve from the tree view. That selects all of that and then use the binder. So click on the extend curve and press the space bar. Now we've bound to that full edge. So we've selected all those edges there. Come back over to Additive Loft and press the space bar to show it. Now we should be able to create that pipe through there. So let's try it again. Select the sketch, additive pipe, object, and select shape binder. We've gone all the way through this time. We need to do some modifications so to allow this to just go part of the way through. So if you think about what's happening at the moment, we've got one single profile that's placed here that's normal to this edge. Let's add another profile. So let's cancel that. And we're going to clone this profile. Sketch 7. Right click, rename, and let's rename that to profile. So using this profile over in the draft workbench, and hide the grid in because we don't need that. We can click on the profile, make sure it's selected, modifications, clone. We now have a clone which at the moment is outside the body. So this profile needs to be dropped inside the active body. So we've cloned the profile. We need to add that clone to somewhere, so we need to attach it to somewhere. So we've got the map mode here, which is deactivated. If I click on the button on the end, it's asking me to select a reference, and that's select this vertex here. So at the moment, that's translate origin onto that vertex. Let's change that. Let's click on the button where it's saying vertex, now it's saying selecting, and let's click on this line and select normal to edge. That's now normal to edge, so it's pointing in the direction of that edge, and we can use the rotation around the different axes here. So this might be a bit tricky to get your head around. So 90 degrees around the x-axis. So we rotated that along there. If it doesn't rotate 90 degrees around this axis, then just try the others. Now we can move that in a different direction. So using Z, we'll move it along this way. And again, if it doesn't move in the right direction, just try the others, because our axes and our directions get flipped around depending on the way it's attached. Let's just change this to something like 0.5 and click off. Slight modifications to get it in the right place. So 0.7, something like that. Now what I have is, after I hit OK, I have another profile, which is that clone. Back to the part design, we do the additive pipe. It's asking us for the profile. Let's pick the profile, or we can select it from the left hand side. Path to sweep, click object, don't add the edge. So we created that path there. Come down, transformation mode, multi-section, So we add another section, add section, and we want this one in here. Click that, and that's placed that onto that section. And we can do some finer adjustments to get that in the right position. I might change the dimensions of this. I may push this up. So that's okay that, and see what we have. So we've got that there. And see that it's deformed a bit as it comes round. So the profiles will deform this. Let's put it into position first. So let's come in, and we're looking at that additive pipe, looking at the profile, this one here. And we've got the attachment offset, this one here. And we've got the position along the Z. And let's make that -1. Let's push it inwards a bit further. That's fully into that base now. And we can do the same with the top. So I can move the profile down from the top. So remember, the profile is along that freehand B-spline. So let's click on that. That's this profile here. Pressing the spacebar, we can see that profile there. Let's come down. Map mode, normal to edge. We've got the attachment offset. What I'm going to do is come into the map mode, click on that button, and the loft has disappeared and left us with profile and the freehand B-spline that goes along here. So let's come back over to the model. I really want to see the pipe again, so I can see whereabouts it is. So this gives me an idea of whereabouts I want to place this. Looking at where this is placed, I'm very tempted to move the freehand B-spline down, so it moves down further. Let's come to task and cancel out of there. We'll hide the additive pipe and come down to the extend curve, open that up, and find the freehand B-spline. So we've got that there. Let's double click it and just move this down. So this point here, I'm just going to move it down like so. Now what's happened is, as we've moved this down, it's actually moved down on the original object that it's attached to. So we can see from that freehand B-spline that the support was the subtractive loft. So the subtractive loft here. Press the space bar, we can see we've pulled that down along that edge. Double click that freehand B-spline, takes it out of edit mode. The profile has moved. So we can see that profile has moved now. We may want to rotate this profile so it comes round this way. Let's see what this looks like. Click on the additive pipe, press the space bar. That is already looking better. So moving it down a bit, allow that to be attached in the right position. We've still got some of the pipe appearing at the top. We can fix this by changing where the freehand B-spline is attached to. At this point, when you're going down this road, then you may want to click on that additive pipe and delete it. So we go back to our original freehand B-spline. That's sitting there. The binder is hidden. It's just hidden because of that pipe. Let's double click that freehand B-spline. Click on this point, which is here, and I'm going to press a key to remove that from this point. So let's come over to the cursor workbench and hover over the freehand B-spline. Now you can see that S is snap points. So if I hover over that point, select it, that means that when I hit S, that becomes unattached. Now I can take this point, select it, control select this line and hit S. It's now snapped to this line, and we can decide where that's going to sit. So I'm going to sit it about there. double click the freehand B-spline, the profile moves away from the top and follows this B-spline. Hide the B-spline and go back to the binder. Press spacebar on the B-spline. See the binders there, and this stand curve comes out. So we're all set to go again. Back to the part design and the additive pipe. First select the profile, select the additive pipe, add edge, select the edge, see it's added the edge, so let's remove that, remove the edge, click on it, and we got the object binder. Because we added the edge, it only added that edge, but now we've removed it, the object's still binder, and now that's attached right the way through all those edges. Remember, there was multiple edges on there. Come down, transformation mode, multi-section, and select this section here. We'll first add a section and select that section. So we're now binded across the binder and across the two profiles. And we're looking good now. So let's come in and hit OK. So we've finally got our first arm. Come over to the model and have a look to see what we've got. So we've got this additive pipe. We're going to now create a polar array around this object. So this is where we see the joining up of these two parts. Now, how many rotations do we need? Let's come back and have a look. So we've got 6 arms there, and you can see how the arms are joined in this part. So let's create those arms. So click on that original SDL, press the spacebar, click on the additive pipe, and we do the polar pattern or part design, apply a pattern, polar pattern. We've got to pick the right axis. So we want this Z axis. At the moment, axis normal sketch. Drop this down and base Z axis. So we've got 2 in there. Something interesting is happening with the clone. Let's have a look at the occurrences. So let's place 6 occurrences across there, but we can see how they've joined up correctly. So that's 6 occurrences across that object, which is right, and we can see the join there. That's okay, that. And we can see the clone has taken, and we've created our object, and they've joined up nicely. I can tell that they've joined correctly with the clone, and we've created or reverse engineered that original STL file. Obviously we can do some finer adjustments on here, but this gives you an idea of the workflow that you would use to create such an object like this. So it's combining both the part design and the cursor workbench. We're using the freehand B-spline to create these, attaching the profiles, and using our binder to pull in the freehand B-spline. As you can see, I was delayed with some of the attachments because I didn't have it attached properly, but this is what happens in real life. I'm not editing that out. So I'm showing you ways of creating that model without going down the perfect route the first time. Now we know this works in some kind of assembly workbench. So I don't need this clone. Click on the clone and press the spacebar. This is why I need this object here. We could add some chamfers and fillets on here if we wanted to. We can go around here and add the chamfers and the fillets on the bottom, cleaning this up. For instance, let's take this face and create a fillet. So part design, apply dress out feature, and fillet. Recomputer's failed because it's quite a small section here. So let's try a 0.2, and we get our fillet going across there, like so. Okay, that. and move to the top and create a fillet on here. So this will fail if it crosses over here. So in the next part of this video, we're going to create assembly with this, probably in something like the Lattice 2 or even the A2 Plus workbench. So once that's finished, that'll be released, and then we can go from there. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next part. If you like what you see and you want to donate to the channel, then you can do so via PayPal at paypal.com/PayPalme/Darren B. Eastone, or at Ko-Fi or Coffee via ko-fi.com/MANG0. I also run a Patreon where you can get early access and additional content, and that's at patreon.com/Mango Jelly Solutions. Links can be found in the channel header, on the About page, or in the descriptions of these videos. I thank everybody that's donated so far. It really helps to keep the lights on so I can produce more content and also expand the channel. Thank you for liking, commenting and subscribing to these videos, and I hope to see you again in the next one.